Hi guys, tonight was really supposed to be the second episode of my Hall effect sensor projects series, but I got a bit sidetracked. I've started tidying up all my scavenged electrical bits, putting them in nice little plastic containers so I can find them, and going through them I found various odds and ends that I didn't know I'd got. One good example is I've got a reed relay that I didn't know I'd got. I'll just try and zoom in on it, see if the camera will be nice to me. See if it'll autofocus. Yes, it has. So, this is the Hall effect sensor that I got out of a fan last night. This is the reed relay that I've just found in my bits and pieces. It doesn't need to be there, but being as I'm playing with magnets, it was just interesting to play with a magnet. So all I'm doing there is operating the relay with the magnet. Nothing, no big deal or anything like that. I'm just rambling a bit tonight because, as I say, I've got sidetracked. This is more like one of these vlogs that people do rather than a proper episode in my Hall effect sensor project. So, having found that magnet and that reed relay, I then had a look to see what other magnets I'd got floating around. Obviously I've got quite a few electric motors, and obviously they've got magnets in them, so you can see the light flickering backwards and forwards. Got some of these tiny little motors out of vibrating toothbrushes. Again, they work. This is slightly more interesting. It's the magnet out of a dynamo. I've forgotten what they were called for a minute then. Just a little bit more interesting if you spin it underneath. So, no big deal, but it was interesting. The thing that was most interesting to me was I found this. I'd sort of thrown it to one side in disgust quite a long time ago. I was trying to make a pulse motor with it, and what these strips are strips out of, well, it's the sort of stuff you put on a fridge magnet. They're magnetic tape, and I couldn't get it to work. I played around with it and I couldn't get it to work very well. I was going to say very well, I don't think I got it to work at all, to be honest. And I gave up on it. Well, playing with this Hall effect sensor, looking for north and south, if I just look at one of the strips, I was interested to find that it actually goes north-south across the strip. And that's something I hadn't expected. And it goes north-south twice. So that's why I wasn't getting a very good result when I was trying to do a pulse motor. I'm sure it can be done, but it wasn't working for me. So that's tidied up my bits and pieces. The other thing I found going through my bits and pieces was this, and most of you will recognise it straight away. It's just the innards out of a 9-volt battery. I use my 9-volt batteries regularly for my projects. There's a normal 9-volt battery. All I've done is I've stripped the casing off, and that's the innards. And I had a little think. I've got lots of these little microswitches recovered out of various little electrical items, and I thought if I use that as the connector on my battery, so I don't have to go and buy one, I could solder the switch straight onto it like that. so that when I put this onto one of my little toy cars or something like that, I've already got the switch there to turn the car on and off. So I'll just spend a couple of minutes showing you how I did that. I think I'll have to zoom out a bit because we're in too close to see what goes on. That should be about right. Okay, I won't take this one apart because I don't need to, because I've already got the bits. I need to cut that off, rub a file across the back to clean the contacts, solder that on, and then a bit of hot glue across the top to hold it all in place and take the strain off the solder joints. Right, ideally you'd use red and black because that's the usual colours that people use, but I'm going to use orange and orange white. I'll use the orange for the positive and the white for the negative. Nice big dollop of hot glue over it to hold it all together. I'll let that cool down and then we'll test it. Right, it's cooled down now. So now I've got my 9-volt battery connector with inbuilt switch. So next time I do a project that needs a 9-volt battery on it, I've got a handy little switch already inbuilt. In fact, I've got two. In fact, I probably have half a dozen by the end of the night if I want to. That's handy. So that's the end of it tonight, gents. So I say, not really one of the project series, more a video log as they call them for the night. Hope it wasn't too boring for you. I don't intend to do many like this, but as I say, I got sidetracked and didn't really get into what I'd planned to do tonight at all. So that's it for tonight.